Should be recording. All right. Well, it's about 3:30. Good afternoon. My name is Michael. Welcome to our workshop. I want to do a few introductory things, and then we'll launch into the actual formal workshop. First of all, did everyone sign in on our sign-in sheet at the back? If you did not, please do. I would like your name and email, and that way I can follow up with an email. And that'll be really helpful for you, that email, because it'll have a lot of helpful links to things that we provide here in the Writing Center. Who all has been to the actual Writing Center here on campus? Anyone? Johan, and you have. What's your name? Yes? Magdalena? Okay, good. Well, for those of you who haven't, our office is on the second floor of the library here. So Boyce 225. If you go up to the second floor and hook a right, you walk past the Torah scroll, and right after the Torah scroll is our office. So that's important for you to know for a couple of reasons. One is when we say Writing Center, that's where we mean. They mean that office. Some people have been confused, like the Writing Center over in Sampy. That's actually where our coordinator office is, but our actual Writing Center is on the second floor of the library. That being said, the Writing Center doesn't work for the library. We work for the seminary. The library works for the seminary, of course, but we're in the Office of Student Success. And that's because, you might guess, we're interested in helping you succeed as a student, and in particular with your writing. There are several ways we help students with their writing here. The first is workshops, and so you figured that one out. So I applaud you. I hope this is helpful for you today. A second thing we do, by the way, on the workshops, I'm sure is everyone getting the emails in here? Okay, good. So there'll be future workshops coming up. You'll want to check your emails for those. A second way that we help students is through online paper submissions. Has anyone submitted a paper in here? A couple hands, all right. So an online paper submission is, the situation is you'll write a paper or a portion of your paper. You'll submit it to us and ask us for a review of that paper. Now, keep in mind, we will not edit your paper because we just can't for resource purposes. Secondly, in addition to not having the resources, our goal here isn't to just correct your paper. Our goal here is to coach you. So, you know the old axiom, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. What's the other half? Yeah, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. That's what we're trying to do. We want to equip you with the skills that you can continue to utilize well beyond, meeting with us, using the Writing Center, well beyond, this semester, well beyond even your program that you're into your life. Many of you are going to be pastors or communicators or teachers or in some sort of ministry where you've got to communicate, and we're trying to help you with communication. Become a better writer. You have signed out because your account is, I just got a message saying that. Don't worry about it. Okay. One of the goals to help you as a communicator is obviously with your writing, but just realize that if you become a better writer, you'll become a better speaker more than likely, and you'll also become a better thinker. So that thinking and speaking carry through the rest of your life, regardless of whether you write again. All right, so we will help you with online paper submissions. You'll submit a paper. One of our writing mentors will review it. We'll send it back to you with our comments. You can then take that paper and modify your paper. Modify your sentences or your format or your style or whatever. A few things on paper submissions. Please give us a 2 to 3 day turnaround. Don't submit it to us the day it's due. We probably won't get it back to you. Yeah. So try to give us 2 or 3 days. Ideally, if you can give us 5 to 7, that's fantastic, especially during peak seasons of the semester where students are bombarding us for help. we're glad to help everyone, but our time and resources are limited, so please try to do that. We have students that sometimes submit a paper 2 or 3 weeks ahead of their due date. That's fantastic. Do that if you can. That helps us, but think about this. It also helps you. For example, let's say you have a paper due in 2 weeks. You could submit it to us. We could review it and get it back to you. After 7 days, you could submit that again. So what we do is we request that you submit 1 paper a week, in a 7-day period. But if your paper is submitted to us 2 weeks from the due date, the following week you could submit that paper back to us and get a second review. But we would request that you first have listened to our recommendations. So what you want to do is modify your paper and then submit it again. Does everyone understand? Okay. So online paper submissions, take advantage of it. I will have links to that in the email I send you. A third way we help students is you can schedule an appointment with us in person, in the Writing Center. I've had appointments with students over in Founders. You could schedule a phone appointment or a Zoom appointment, and we can help you with your writing through those appointments. The Writing Center is only open certain hours, so obviously you can schedule an appointment during those hours. However, we can meet with students outside of those appointments if you can't come during office hours. So I've done phone appointments on like a Saturday before. So you would just want to schedule that through the Writing Center and make a note that I'm available and during these times. It was outside of the office hours. Hey man, hey, be sure to sign in back there. All right, so workshops, submit a paper, appointments, and a fourth way that we help students is we have a lot of resources. A lot of them are now digital. You can access them through our website, websites actually. And then we have some hard copy resources. We can give you those. If you come to the Writing Center, I can give you some. All right, so there's a brief rundown on what we do, the avenues of aid for you as a student. Does anybody have any questions about that? About who we are and what we do? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and launch into our workshop. First of all, again, welcome to everybody. Some of you have just stepped in. Welcome to our Writing Center workshop called Structure and Spontaneity, Framing a Paper to Help the Reader. I want to just take a moment here to ask anyone here if you understand that title. Like, what are your expectations when you come to a workshop like this? What do you think you're going to take away from it? What are you looking to get? That's my question.
Readable, while also making it
Good. Yeah, what do you mean by readable?
like organized, well, so
Yeah.
what your arguments are.
Yes. Excellent. What's your name?
Steve.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, that's excellent. One thing I want you to think about, I need a drink of water. Here it is. One of the things I want you to think about is structure. We're really going to sit on that today because if your structure is good, it will help your reader. If your structure is bad, it will make it really hard for your reader. And as you can see in the subtitle, we want to help the reader. I'm going to erase Dr. Vickers' wonderful Greek instruction from the dry erase board. And I'm going to I don't know if everyone can see this over here. And I'm sorry to my online viewers. All right. It's a very basic example. But can anyone express to me what's going on with those words? Yeah, they're just kind of all over the place, right? It's not immediately clear what I'm trying to say. You kind of have to scan it and process each individual element and go, okay, well, how do these fit together, right? I could add another word here, like an adjective, like gray. So it's like, at dawn, cat into the tree, the gray climbed. Like, is the tree gray? I mean, like, how do I piece these words together? What you're trying to do when the structure of your paper is avoid making your reader have to work hard to figure out how these things all relate to each other. The way you can avoid that is through structure. Very simple, plain, recognizable, normal structure. So obviously, right, if I do this, the gray cat climbed into the tree at dawn, right? I wish I'd arranged this a little differently, but what have I got here grammatically? Well, I have a subject, and then I have a predicate, right? Subject predicate. Have you heard that? Subject predicate? Yeah, subject predicate. Everyone has their place. That's what you want to do in your paper. You want things to have their place so that it's very easy to follow. Okay? We're going to talk about that today. You'll notice the second word there is spontaneity. Who knows what spontaneity means? Spontaneous. Okay, so what does spontaneous mean?
Clearness.
Not exactly.
Coherence.
Not exactly.
So there's no something that kind of happens without pre-planning.
Yeah, yeah. You're kind of, as we say, pardon the expression, but you're kind of wheeling and improvising is a word. There is a place, believe it or not, in academic writing for you having some freedom. There's a place for it. What we're going to try to do today is kind of balance those. If your paper is too like improvised and innovative and spontaneous and without enough structure, it'd be very confusing. No, it's like if I walked in and I said, oh, writing is a wonderful exercise. I'm climbing Mount Olympus tomorrow. My cat loves to, my cat is named Apollo, and I just start throwing facts at you without any like real structure to it. You're gonna ask yourself, what's the relevance of this information? And if I don't structure my paper in a recognizable way, and I just kind of freewheel it, you know, the reader is going to be wondering why you started your paper this way. You know, readers oftentimes, and especially your professors who are reading your papers, they're going to have expectations. When I read Johann's paper, at the very beginning, what am I expecting to first encounter in his paper? Evidence? Go ahead.
What I'm trying to argue in the paper.
Yeah. Like I want him to kind of introduce his subject to me. I don't want him to start the very first sentence of his paper. I don't want him to say, in his commentary on Romans, Dr. Schreiner, quote, It's like, well, first of all, why are you quoting Dr. Schreiner's commentary on Romans? I don't even know. You haven't introduced it to me. You're just giving me a piece of evidence, perhaps, that verifies that an expert sees things a certain way. I don't even know if you agree with them or not. Maybe you don't even agree with it, but if you just throw a fact at me out of place, I don't know what you're doing. You see?
So spontaneity is like the flow of thoughts.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Your evidence and the way you structure your paper is going to be very regular. How you structure your paper is going to be very regular. But how you express yourself in your prose can be original and spontaneous, We'll talk about it a little bit more. All right, let me keep going. So here are our objectives today. Think about these. Our goal is to understand the structure of academic papers and their benefits for the readers. Second, we want to acquire 2 skills to assist in the editing pre-writing process. We'll talk about those. I asked you about your objectives. What do you want to get out of this? What did it mean to you, structured spontaneity, framing the paper to help the reader? Hopefully it'll be, I want to be better at structuring my paper in a way that helps my reader. That's the goal. All right. I'm going to move on. All right. So let's talk about structure. What does it do? It does a couple things. First is it serves your reader. You ever thought about that? Well, oftentimes when you come to a paper, it's just kind of like, I got to get some facts down and I got to get some evidence in there. But we don't think about, well, how is this going to appear to my reader? And is she going to understand this? Is she going to be able to follow what I'm doing? So you want to be able to think about formatting your paper, in a structure that will meet common expectations, right? I'm erasing the board again. My apologies to the online community, but you'll be able to follow me what I'm saying. So when you write a theological paper here for systematic theology, it's usually called a position paper, right? What's the first thing you do in that paper? Well, it's actually called, it's a very specific thing you do. Is you present the issue, which includes an introduction, a thesis, statement, and what's the third thing? Methodology, very good. I'll abbreviate this. Method statement, right? What's the second thing you do in a theological position paper? Yeah, it's called positions on the issue. And just realize that the issue is probably not what you're going to say unless your prompt's like, just make the subheading in that part of your paper in the positions on the issue. In other words, it could read positions on Christian baptism, right? There's a couple of positions on Christian baptism, at least main ones. And so you're going to have 2 or 3 of those, right? They're main positions. What's the third thing you do in a theological position paper? What's that? Defend? Yeah, we call it support. Support for your position, right? The position that you take. And you're going to have basically your best arguments for it, your best reasons, your best evidence. Let's say 3 main ones. And then what's the last thing you're going to do? What do your profs want you to do in a theological position paper last? It's called actually no. You've got to deal with objections. Objections to your position, right? You see what I've done here is I have provided you the expected structure, right? When your professor comes to your paper, she wants to see this structure in everybody's paper. There's nothing original about that, right? Where it will be original and spontaneous for you, so to speak, is what you do in this structure, within the structure, right? So you want to meet common expectations that allow your readers to focus on your argument. Don't confuse your reader with your structure. Make your structure very regular, which is why the professors have you follow this. It's like riding a bike. It's like, we're not gonna give you a really complicated bike. We're gonna give you a bike with a seat, pedals, and handlebars and wheels. That's it. We're not gonna put the horn on there and a navigational system. Like we're gonna start you out here first. When you kind of master this structure, then you can be more innovative. All right? So you're gonna help your reader focus on what you're saying, not on your structure, right? But you gotta have a strong underlying structure to do that. All right. A good structure will also serve you as the writer, believe it or not. Some people approach structure and they're like, it's so tedious, I don't want to do that. I just want to sit down here and do a stream of consciousness and like spit all my thoughts out on paper. Well, that's okay to like get your writing going and get the mental juices flowing, as we say. Get all your thoughts out, but that's not the final form you want your paper to be in. And I will just say this, that if you learn how to structure your paper in a helpful way like this, it will help you as a writer. It will give you a starting place. It's like some people sit down into the computer and like, I got to write this paper. Where do I even start? Oh my goodness. And it can be overwhelming, writer's block, or you just don't know where to begin. Well, a structure will solve that for you. You're like, okay, the first thing I need to do is to talk about the issue. Introduce it, give what I'm going to argue, my thesis statement, and how I'm going to argue it, my methodology statement. That's a big, straightforward structure. If you follow that, it'll be clear to you as a writer what you need to do. And it'll be clear to your reader, obviously, what you're going to do when she's reading it. So a structure is going to give you a starting place. It's going to give you boundaries. It's like, there's 1,000 things I could talk about on Christian baptism, but when I get to positions on the issue, I'm going to pick the 3 major ones. I'm not going to pick minor ones, right? So it's a boundary. Don't talk about a view that's not really relevant. You know what I mean? When you go to support your argument, don't put your weakest arguments. You don't have enough room for every argument, right? Get your 3 strongest ones and make that your boundary. Okay, I'm just going to address my strong ones, A, B, C. Right? Does that make sense? It helps you. Structure helps you.
So
Yeah.
when you say that 10 pages paper, point of views usually is 3 or 4.
You mean positions on the issue? Yeah, your professor is normally going to want somewhere between 2, 3, 4 views. Probably. It depends on the issue, but probably no more than 4. 3 is probably a good number. Good question.
And on the support point, also the 3 positions.
Yeah.
So you also give 3 support points as
Well,
well?
the answer is you can, yes, give reasons that that support that position and do it fairly, but you're not really going to argue for it. You're just presenting. You can say, here is one position. Here's why advocates. Here are the reasons advocates. Here are the advocates' reasons. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah. But again, a 10-page paper. In another seminar, in another workshop, I kind of break it down. I'm not going to do it here, but this is like maybe a half a page to a page. The introduction, maybe. Positions on the issue is probably about 2 pages. Support, maybe 3 pages. Objections, maybe 3 pages. So that's what, 3. That's about 9 pages. And if you do a conclusion, you're done on to 10 pages. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right, that's a general breakdown.
And so in terms of the structure, do you also comment on the problems on other positions on the second part, or do you do that?
Well, all you're going to do here in positions is present. You could maybe make a passing comment on, you know, there are objections that will fall, you know, along these lines to the view you're not going to deal with. But all the objections to your position are going to be down here. But you're trying to just accurately present. All right, I can't go into that much more, but those are great questions. All right, so boundaries keep you focused when you're writing. You, as the writer, know how all the pieces work together once you've created the structure for yourself, right? It becomes very clear for you, and that helps guide you. Boundaries also make your argument more precise. You know what's out of bounds. Like, so maybe there's 5 positions on some theological topic, maybe on the Lord's Supper, right? How many positions are there on that? There's a number. You're going to deal with the 3 major ones, but you could footnote and say other positions on the Lord's Supper include. But you footnote that, right? Because you can't deal with it in your paper. Your paper's got its own page limits, right? You can't write a 30-page paper. But you can alert your reader, inform your reader that you're aware of the other positions in a footnote, right? So, plus, you know, footnotes do a lot of things. If you want to know more about footnotes, come to the footnotes seminar, workshop, sorry. It's coming up. Stay tuned. Anyhow, there's different types of things you can do in a footnote, but I'll just let that go for now. So the goal here is, I'm trying to give you some structure here. Don't reinvent the wheel. Make your structure very, very straightforward. Nothing really original about it. Here's an illustration. Structure. I'm getting in front of the camera here. Structure creates space to show off your English style and your spontaneity. So, unoriginal with your structure, original with your writing. Does that make sense? Yeah. This building right here, right? We know it's a building because of the structure, right? But where are the walls? Where's the electricity and the lighting and the furniture and the style? It hasn't been installed yet, has it? But the basic structure's there. I know that's going to be like probably a house, right? So nothing original about the structure, but you get to have original style. So that will help your reader. How about this human skeleton? Is that George Washington's skeleton? Probably not. It is probably decayed or buried in the ground. Probably didn't have photography, right, to take a picture of his actual skeleton. We don't know whose that is, right? But the structure is obvious, isn't it? In fact, when you look at that, you're wanting more, right? You're wanting the skin, right? Flesh it out. Flesh out that thing. Not much is exciting about the skeleton, right? But you start putting eyes and hair color and skin and ears and all of those things that really like make you go, wow, you know, that's a human being. Human beings are incredible. So structure is not meant to be seen. It's like a skeleton, but you can't miss it. And so issue, positions on the issue, support, very, very obvious. And I say structure is not meant to be seen is because the goal of your paper isn't really, hey, reader, look at how awesome I am at structuring things. No, the goal of your paper is, hey, reader, look at my thesis and what I'm arguing for and look at my great reasons and my great evidence. You see what I mean? That's what you want them to focus on, not like, what is this paragraph doing here? It doesn't relate to anything else, or logically, I don't see how it fits in. For example, if I started a paper without introducing the issue and I just went straight to objections, or I just went to support, or I just went to, you know, it'd be like, why are they starting here? I don't even know what the subject is. It's I'm having to assume it, you know. Uh-oh, sorry. It's all right. Sorry, pushed the wrong button, guys. There we go. Uh-oh, yeah, I don't mind. I guess when you exit out, it goes away. Is that what happens? Sorry, guys, for the delay. You guys are like, does this guy know how to work a computer? And why share? Desktop, share. Let me know when it's back. Is it back? Okay, great. All right, moving along. There we go. All right, so let's talk about the beginning of your paper, the middle, and the end. That is your general structure. Right? You're going to begin the paper, provide a middle, and you're going to end it. Approach number one, you're going to structure your paper from the essay level first. Notice that this is exactly what your theological professors give you, is the essay level, right? Of the structure of the essay level. Issue, positions, support, objections. So consider this. Give your essay the three-part feel of completion, beginning, middle, and end. Many a beginner's essay has no structure and it leaves no impression. It's all chaotic middle. It has no beginning, it just starts. It just stops. It has no end. It's burned out at 2 in the morning. What is that? Why would they say burned out at 2 in the morning? Because it's produced at 2 in the morning, right? It's like, oh man, I gotta finish this paper. It's due tomorrow. I don't have time to think about anything but vomiting all my thoughts down into this Word document and uploading it, right? And so those kind of papers just kind of become unstructured streams of consciousness, and they're really hard to follow. And so your goal is to structure your paper with a beginning, middle, and end, because that's so typical, right? Meet the expectation of your reader, beginning, middle, and end. By the time they get to the end, if you've structured it, it'll feel completed. And that's what you want. Papers with good structure will leave the best impression. And I don't know why that's not advancing. I'll just have to do it like that. All right. So the essay level, we're still talking about that. Introduction, body, and conclusion. Now, I realize that your theological position papers don't have that exact format. The issue section kind of serves as your introduction. These three basically serve, the next three serve as the body of your paper. And you don't have a conclusion, but most theological essays are going to have an introduction, the body, and then a conclusion. Introduction gives essential background and significance of the topic, the purpose of the essay, and your thesis. Make sure you have a strong thesis statement. The body of your paper is where all of your arguments, your points of development, by the way, the points of development, they develop your argument, they develop your thesis, their main points that do that. The data from your research, and then connection to the thesis, okay? Always think about how your paper connects to your thesis in any section that you're in. And the last thing you're gonna do in a typical essay is to provide a conclusion that restates the thesis, your main points, and any closing comments, like a clincher, which is like a rap song, or he drops the mic, and walks off the stage, or a poetry slam, or something like that. Always check your paper for coherence. What's coherence? Who? What? Flow thoughts. Okay, yeah. Something more specific. Like you can have a flow of a lot of random thoughts, can't you? So go back to coherence. We mean that things cohere, like they connect, right? It's obvious why you've said this, and then why you're saying this, and then why you're saying this. It's very obvious that these ideas connect. You can do that by using repetition and by a real natural development or a logical development of ideas. And using good transitions between ideas, between paragraphs, between sections of your paper. And you might want to step back and analyze your paper for the big picture. Make sure that you're not deviating, you're not losing track. All right, let's get an example of an introduction, all right? So take just 1 minute to scan that paragraph. Then I'm gonna ask you some questions. Okay, oh, is it hard to see? Okay, yeah. Is that better? All right, so let me ask you a few follow-up questions. First of all, is anyone like completely like blown? Like what in the world is he trying to say? Okay, I'm gonna ask you just a few additional questions. All right, what about the blue underlined portion? What can you tell me about that? What's going on there?
It gives a significance and a logic.
Okay, notice that it consists of 2 sentences, right? Let me ask you details. How about the first sentence? What's that doing? Oh yeah, capturing the attention, excellent. We call that a hooker, or there's other sorts of identifications for it, but it's an opening sentence that generates interest with your reader. Notice that's an opening sentence. That's the first thing you want to put. Just notice, okay, so now I'm going to start talking about structure. My first sentence, the structure of my paper consists of a first sentence. That's a hooker. It hooks the interest of my reader, hooks my reader in. And questions are a good way to do that. Notice that it's a question, not just a declarative statement, right? It's an interrogatory statement, right? Interrogatory sentence. Idea. What about the second sentence? Thoughts? What's that doing there? Opposition? Yeah, it's kind of oppositional. I mean, it's kind of elaborating on the question, right? It's kind of, go ahead,
It
Johan.
gives us, I think it gives us a hint of about the content of the paper.
Yes.
That is coming up.
Yeah, it's a topic sentence, essentially, right? So after your hooker sentence, you're going to give a topic sentence. What is my paper about? It's about Ezra, right? The scribe Ezra and his role shaping the Hebrew Bible, right? What about the middle sentences that are not underlined? What are those doing?
Introducing you to the topic.
Okay, by doing what? How's it doing that?
Explaining what the is.
Yeah, and other things, right? But this, particularly the Masoretic text is involved, the Masoretes. So I'm gonna write on the board here a little green. You're giving some background, right?
Mhm.
Background to your topic. Your reader may not have that background, and you're going to give a little background, right? You're going to introduce. So you're elaborating on the subject or the topic of your paper. So hooker, topic sentence, the topic of your paper, some elaboration on the background of the topic and why it matters. What's the red? What's the underlined in red part? What's that doing? Oh yeah, excellent. What's your name, man?
Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, it's a thesis in it, right? What is a thesis? Which question? Answer to a question, but which question? Does the topic have a question? Yeah, the hooker sentence is asking a question, right? What would it be like to read the Bible with Ezra sitting across the table? Well, we all know that's impossible, right? But that's kind of the shock part of it, right? Like Ezra's dead, right? I can't get in contact with it. Well, maybe you can, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, but we're not going to do that, right? We're going to deal with Ezra by the Masoretic text, right? Though often overlooked, the Masoretic accent system provides biblical exegetes with a reading companion that can clarify and confirm the sense of the text through highly predictable patterns. That's what you're going to argue, that the Masoretic system provides exegetes with a reading companion that clarifies and confirms the sense of the text, and it uses these patterns to do it. The rest of your paper is going to argue for that. But what I want to point out here is the structure. Look at what you've done. You structure your paragraph like this. You have a very apparent beginning, a very apparent middle, and a very apparent ending to the paragraph. Everything's in its place. Clincher, topic sentence, background, thesis statement. Okay? Don't be original on the structure. Be original on your wonderful arguments and logic that you're going to use in the paper. All right, moving on. Here is an example of a methodology. So this could probably be the second. Notice that I'm following right along here with the issue section. The next part would be your methodology. This is where you express to your reader how you're going to argue for your thesis. You can do it in a paragraph like this, or in a shorter theology paper that's like 10 pages. You can do it in one sentence. I will present this thesis according to the 3 frames of reference: the history, the hermeneutic, and the how-tos of the accent system. What do you think this paragraph is going to be about? That's a topic sentence. What's it going to be about? Okay, his method, and what is that?
To explain his thesis, which is about.
Yeah, so method has to do with like components and steps, right? So it's like, how am I going to give a writing center workshop? Well, first I'm going to show up to the Chrisman Hall here with my laptop. Second, I'm going to open the laptop and begin to pull up my PowerPoint presentation. Third, I'm going to give the PowerPoint presentation. Fourth, I will close my computer, put it in my bag, and walk out. If you do that, it's very straightforward what I'm doing, right? And I'm presenting it to you clearly. So now you as a reader have expectations about what I'm going to do, right? I haven't told you all the ins and outs of what are on my slides, but I told you that my third step is to actually present the workshop, didn't I? Present the PowerPoint presentation. That's what you're doing here. I hope to demonstrate the useful nature of this tradition, one, by briefly describing how it comes to us through history. I'm going to step on the stage for a second. Notice the topic sentence talks about what? History. And here is the elaboration on exactly what I'm going to do in terms of history. Number two, and by detailing the underlying hermeneutical principles that make it work. Notice hermeneutical principles and hermeneutic in the topic sentence. You see how these ideas are tying together with repeated vocabulary, repeated words? Your ideas are cohering. And then third, I will then examine various examples from the book of Judges in order to illustrate how this reading tradition is useful for exegesis at various levels of proficiency. Do you see another word here? History, hermeneutic, and then it was how-tos of the accent system. I'll examine various examples from the book of Judges in order to illustrate how. Can you see that? How repeats there. So just notice the structure of this paragraph and how the topic sentence and the ones that come after it all tie in. Notice 3 frames of reference and then the numbers 1, 2, 3. You see that? These are like signs and pointers. Repetition. So your reader can tie these ideas together. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to move on. All right, so now let's talk about structure at the paragraph level. Your paragraphs also have a beginning, middle, and end. Yes, I see a hand. Yeah. Well, let me answer that in a couple ways. It depends. But let's say you're doing a position paper. Your methodology would be first, or you could say, don't do it in a paragraph, you can do it in one sentence. In support of my thesis, I will present the main positions on the issue, comma, support my position, comma, and deal with objections to my position. You can state it that generically, or you could do it very general or very specifically and say, in support of believers' baptism, I will, or yeah, in support of believers' baptism, I will list positions on Christian baptism, main positions on Christian baptism, major positions on Christian baptism, comma, support for believers' baptism, comma, and objections to believers' baptism. Methodology sentence, one sentence, right? You can also do it in a paragraph like the previous slide that we saw. But your introduction's not going to be very long, and your prof doesn't want it to be long. They're interested in your ideas. They're interested in how well you can argue for your position and how well you can deal with the objections to it, right? Now, let's talk about the paragraph level. You need structure. All right, so we've already kind of talked about this. You need the topic. Your topic sentence connects to the previous paragraph and introduces the idea of the paragraph you're working on. So connect to the previous paragraph, introduce the idea of that paragraph or this next paragraph. The thrust of your paragraphs are where you're going to present your data. This is the place to do that, nowhere else. Don't begin a topic sentence with Dr. Schreiner says, quotation. I don't really know if you're using Dr. Schreiner's quote because you agree with it or because you disagree with it. So if you think he has a good position on believers' baptism, you would say, several scholars agree with believers' baptism. First, Dr. Schreiner, quote. You see what I did there? I gave a topic sentence, and now the thrust, the way I'm going to support that topic sentence is with data, right? Do you follow? Sometimes readers will transition between paragraphs by just throwing out another piece of data. So it's like, I ended this paragraph with a piece of data. I'm going to start a new paragraph and just throw another piece of data. And so it's just like all this data strung together, but there's no interpretation. There's no stating what you think about it, introducing it in a way that makes sense, where the ideas cohere together and connect. All right? Now, look, the structure of your paragraph's unoriginal. Topic, thrust, or explanation, middle of the paragraph, and then transition or conclusion, right? But the thrust is where your style shines, all right? Where you are going to express yourself. That's the spontaneity piece, right? Where you, as a writer, can say it how you want to say it. Do it clearly, do it precisely, concisely as possible. But you can let your style shine. That's really the place to let it shine. And then your conclusion to the paragraph or the end of the paragraph is a transition, right? So you're going to summarize the main points, or main point, 1 point. Each paragraph has 1 point. It may have subpoints that support that main point, but it's got one main point. Don't confuse your reader by throwing 8 main points in one paragraph. That's too much. 5, 4, 3, 2. 2's too much. One main point. And then you're gonna give, you could give a conclusive inference. Now you may be thinking, oh Mike, I love examples of a academic paragraph. Well, let me take a moment now to plug, a week from today, another workshop called Molding Mud, Crafting Effective Academic Paragraphs. And we will go into more detail on academic paragraphs. Right now, we're just talking about the structure. All right, so in a paragraph level, you also want to check for cohesion. Do your sentences connect obviously to one another? How logically has this paragraph been developed? Is it clear that, okay, if this is true and this is true, I should conclude this? And check all the links in the chain. I can give you links. I can come over here to, Johan, with 10 links and just drop them on the table and none of them connect. That's not a very strong chain, is it? A strong paragraph is one where the ideas are all linked together. You can pull 30 tons with a really strong chain. Anyhow, but they got to be linked together, right? All right, I'm going to move on. Maybe you can't pull 30 tons with a chain. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just making this up. All right, so let's consider another example of writing. Another writing example here. A section transition. That's what I want to focus on. Okay, we're going to focus on transitioning between sections. Notice in this writing sample, The title of this section is The Credibility of Linguistic Dating Methods. Take about 1 minute to read that. Read all of that sample there. I'll ask some questions. Got it? Okay. Let me ask you a question. What is the red portion doing? Exactly. You see the arrow pointing up? It's connecting to the previous paragraph or section. What's the blue portion doing? That's right. Yeah. So here you got a topic sentence that transitions from the previous material and introduces the new material, right? Critics attack the credibility of this approach at the level of assumption and method. Why is that brown part highlighted? Yeah, what's being repeated? Yeah. For example, the only one you can see is the word assumption in the next paragraph, right? But it's exactly what it's doing. Do you see how the word is being repeated? So what they've done here is this whole section of the paper is going to deal with the credibility of linguistic dating methods. They're going to have several subsections to deal with this topic, right? This is a topic within the paper. Actually, the title of the paper, we don't know the title of the paper here, but the first subsection of the paper that starts to, I guess I can't say it's the first, but one of them is credibility, right? Well, there's been assumptions made about linguistic dating methods. My first subsection is gonna start to deal with those, right? And the objections. And I link those together with common terminology. There'll be a section that deals with the actual method part of it. But does that make sense? So you see how there's transitions being made between these sections. Make sure you do that for your reader. So the second paragraph here is picking up on the previous one, and it's going to focus on assumptions. All right, here's one last picture for you of a beautiful old building, or at least a structure, an old structure. And create for your reader a very easy to read paper. You do all the hard work so that your reader can stand back and say, that was a really incredible, beautiful, amazing paper. Much like this old structure. So a beginning, middle, and end to your essay, a beginning, middle, and end to your paragraphs or sections, a beginning, middle, and end to your paragraphs. Let me make one more comment on the previous slide. Notice that this section here, it starts with an introductory paragraph. So that short 3-sentence paragraph with the red arrow and the blue arrow, it's an introductory paragraph. It's 3 sentences. It's introducing your reader to what you're going to do in this section. And then you go into your next subsection with the topic sentence. Two main objections rise against the chronological claims of lingua critics. How many objections are going to be dealt with in this paragraph? Probably two, right? Or maybe one, and then you start another paragraph that deals with the second one. But you see how the structure is going to flow out of that introductory sentence? Two main objections rise against the chronological claims of lingua critics. The first of these objections seeks to expose and debunk assumptions upon which Hurwitz and many others build their case. If I'm reading this paper, I don't really, if I'm just reading this little excerpt here, I know what comes next after this. First, he's going to deal with the objection to to assumption. Like, this method really assumes stuff. He's gonna deal with that, you know. The next objection is probably going to deal with it being a problematical method, and so he's going to deal with that. I can tell because of the way he structured his paper. I know what's coming next, and that's what you want to try to do. Think of, when you're writing, you want to think, okay, is it going to be clear to my reader what's coming? What's coming next? What's coming in the next paragraph? Next 3 paragraphs? The next section of my paper? Have I told my reader? So, in a lot of ways, your structure is like, it's like a map, right? You're structuring your paper because you're telling them ahead of time, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you here first, then I'm going to take you here next, then I'm going to take you here next. Okay. Well, we're out of time. But I'm happy to hang around and entertain questions. So thanks for coming. I hope this gives you some new things to think about when you're writing your paper and structuring it. And God bless you. I hope to see you again. Yeah, absolutely. Talk to you. Well, that doesn't work. Am I still recording? Stop recording. Okay, let me unmute. I unmuted. That's weird. I unmuted a thought on this little window, but it didn't recognize it.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm just kind of all over the place. I was gonna. Yeah, blessings, man. I was gonna try to hear from Venus real quick. Okay. I guess I could just end the meeting or stop recording first.
Mm-hmm.